So feet nice and wide, give yourself a little shake. If you want to close your eyes, it's always nice. And then, so tucking your tail slightly to set that position so your low core is starting to turn on right from the get-go. And then long neck, tuck your chin and roll down. And just notice your shoulder angle opening as you fold further open, kind of where they go naturally. Give it a little shake at the bottom, and then tuck your tail and roll back up. So same thing, trying to tuck your tail, and then notice what happens to your arms, how that angle changes as you stand up straight. Yeah. And then taking a breath at the top and going down again, this time with a little bit more core attention. So really tucking your tail and using your core to pull yourself down. Give it a little shake, especially of your head. You can grab onto your elbows. Here's a little shake back and forth, side to side. And then rolling back up. Again, using your core tension to stack your spine back up again. Yeah. Sweet. Turn your toes out and bring your arms up. When you get to the top, of course, no need to rush. Sweet. And then we've done these on the wall before, but you're going to bend your knees with your tail tucked and then bring your arms down by your side. It's kind of cactus arms. And then stretch it back up. Yeah, and you can take that moment to really set your core, stand up onto your toes, and then drop your toes down. Initiate your arm movement by pulling your shoulders away from your ears. That's really going to get your lats in on the party, bringing your elbows in nice and close. Awesome. Stretching up one more time. This time imagining that your back and wrists are on the wall. So as you drag down, shoulders away from ears, hands wide, you're pulling your elbows back so you start to feel your upper back warm up. Yeah. Stretching it up. And then you can fold forward, give your hips a little shake, and then come down into tabletop on your hands and knees. Tip you down a little. Sweet. So this is when you can start that spiraling intention right from your tabletop. So you don't need to do that in every single cat-cow you do, but if you do it as your handstand warm-up, it'll start training that as you go. So pressing into your thumb and forefinger, spiral your elbow creases forward, and puff your upper back up. Now you're going to keep that spiral, keep the push with your arms, stick your tailbone out, arching through. So often we kind of let everything turn out as we're arching forward. I want you to keep the spiral, keep the push, and feel how that lets you open your chest a bit more. Yeah. Now you're arching through your upper back instead of just your low back. Yeah. And then keep that spiral, keep that push, tuck your tail, push it up. Relax your head. Keep the push, keep the spiral, arch it out. Hold that one more time. Tuck your tail, curl it up and under. Push. Exaggerate the spiral and the push as you arch forward one more time. And yeah, that spiral and push really lets you pull your shoulders back so you can press your chest farther forward. And back through the center. Now we're going to step one hand over and over to go to the side. And then we're going to do 3 cat-cows here as well. So trying to keep that spiral, keep that push, round it up. And you can kind of play around with shifting your weight between your knees so you can feel it differently in your low back. And keep the spiral as you arch forward. So you can go with your own breath. We'll do 3 here. So tucking it under, rounding up. And taking your tail and arch it out. And just feel the difference between your two sides. As you're really pushing, you'll feel everything on your long side, so the inside hand, you'll feel that whole side kind of engage a little bit more. And relax. Coming back to the center to go to the other side. Crisscross, crisscross. And all these warm-ups are always better to do kind of on your own breath than anything else. Nice. Like tucking your tail, trying to puff up your upper back a little bit more. Take it out, arching. Keep the spiral and the push. Looking forward. Keep your tail around that. Trying to squeeze your shoulders back to press your chest forward, even through this kind of asymmetrical cow. Or cow, I guess. Wind back through the middle, and then just to give your arms a little break, you can just sit back, arms forward in a child's pose. Yeah, so you sounded like you felt the difference between when you were just kind of like casual and that like spiral and push. You just have access to so much more, and you're like, wow. That's good. Sweet. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple little like plank things. Again, trying to keep that intention of the spiral, the push, and whenever you move your hand, if you have that spiral and push engaged, then you can shift your weight really slightly to be able to move this hand freely, as opposed to when you're just here and you're like, oh God, I need to get my hand down as quick as possible, I'm falling. Oh. Yeah, so that's like, and you can kind of feel it out in the tabletop. So spiral, push, yeah. Then you have to shift only very slightly to be able to move that hand kind of freely, and nothing else in your body is moving. Then you can just replace it, spiral push on that hand, and now you can lift your other one. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Totally live. We're going to do one more from this position, one more little stretch. So, spiral forward, push. We're going to twist to reach up. And then usually, again, like when you thread the needle, we'd usually kind of bend and go through. You're not going to do that. You're going to keep the spiral, keep the push, pull your ribs in, and see how far you can reach without losing that bottom elbow spiral. Yeah. And then reaching up. So you just have to hold it for like a little moment. And then curl it in, reach through. Yeah. And we'll do 5 here just so you can make any little adjustments. Keeping the push, yeah, ribs pulled in as you reach through. And then on the 5th one, you can bend your elbow, lay your shoulder and temple down, and then use that as a little twist. Yeah. So by doing all that like strength work before you do the twist, you've really engaged everything. So then when you get to the kind of passive twist, everything's in a good spot to get the stretch as opposed to just like collapsing onto your face. Excellent. And then you can place your hand down when you're ready, unwind. Back to the center. And we'll do the other side. So again, each one, spiral the elbow, get that push, reach up. So you're trying to reach as high as possible, like you're trying to reach for the ceiling, and then curl your ribs in, reaching through, twisting as much as you can without losing that push of your bottom hand, and then up again. Reach through. So it gives you a nice opportunity to feel like where the rotation and the push comes from in your whole body. So once you can isolate and understand that better, then you can make corrections without everything changing. Yeah. And on the 5th one, reaching through, and then when you've gone as far as you can bend that elbow to put your shoulder and temple down on the ground, and then twist open. clear that, unwind. Sit back. Nice.
Also, if you hear baby, there's a baby here.
So sweet. Excellent. Yeah, so do you feel it different? First of all, it warms you up quicker because you're using way more engagement, and then you don't have to do as much warm up. You're ready. But yeah, as soon as all of this is locked in, then you can feel how much control you have kind of in your midsection. Which sometimes, like when you're starting handstands, I don't know where you are on your journey, but it always feels like you're up there. You try to make one little correction, you're like, oh my god. But if you can set that, it's like, okay, now I can make little corrections, and I know at least my first building block will stay put. Yeah.
Okay, this is so great. Thank you. I've been wondering, like, what do I do with my elbows this whole time?
Yeah. Like, people will talk about it in different ways, but yeah, I find the spiral really helps, and partly because I find that the easiest way to think about my legs as well. So if my two limbs are doing the same thing, that same spiral, it's I don't need to think about it as much.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do a little down dog and plank flow to truly get warm. So setting your position first in your tabletop. So fingers spreading wide, pressing into the forefinger and thumb, and then spiraling forward. Push up with your upper back, and then you can just reach your legs out. So we're in a plank. Yeah. So keeping that push just like the tabletop, you're not going to lose it at all. Keep the push, lift up onto your heels, up and back, down dog. But even in that down dog, try to keep the feeling of that spiral. Because now you can kind of feel your upper back starting to really work. So keeping that spiral, bring your ribs in, come forward into that plank again. And we're going to do a little elbow tap. So you can spread your feet a little bit wider. Keep the spiral and press with your arms. Shift slightly to tap your elbow with one finger and then the other. So you're trying to avoid too much side-to-side movement. Trying to get that spiral and the ribs pulled in, hips tucked under to keep your body still. We're going to do 5 on each side. Really pushing into the ground to help you take the weight off your other hand. You'll feel little micro adjustments happening with your hips. Don't fight it, just don't. But do fight the side to side. After 5, shifting up and back, down dog. Or come down child's pose. That's totally cool. Yeah. Nice. Okay, feet together now. Keeping that spiral in your hands or in your arms, so elbows reaching forward. You're going to lift one leg, bend your knee, and we're going to circle that knee. So we're going to do 5 in one direction, and then 5 in the other. So you can go nice and slow so you can really feel that push and spiral with your arms, your ribs pulling in, so nothing is moving except for that one leg. Awesome. And after 5, switch direction. One way is usually a bit harder to keep it all together, so just keep the push, keep your ribs pulled in. Nice. And then after 5, you can come back to your down dog. We'll take a moment in between the two sides. Press into your hand spiral, let that pull you forward to your plank. We'll lower down through chaturanga, shift forward, really squeeze your shoulder blades together into a little cobra. If you want to come up higher, that's up to you. And then shift up and back for the other side. So setting your position first, really grounding into the heel of your hand, spiraling the elbow creases out to lift your leg, bend, and then same thing, 5 circles. Yeah. So you're trying to push the ground away, getting your ears, your shoulders near your ears, and really resisting that side-to-side movement, because that's going to tell you that you're really stable through your center line. And then after your 5, switch directions. Yeah. And then you can step it down, shift forward to plank, down to chaturanga, up to cobra. Maybe giving yourself a little extra squeeze when you get to cobra, squeezing your shoulder blades to shoulders back to press your chest forward, and then sit back in child's pose for a moment. Yeah, so I really like those as a warm-up for any kind of handstand stuff, because when you're kicking, like, you can think, you're like, oh, I'm just kicking up to handstand, everything's in a straight line, super controlled, but as soon as one limb is moving, everything else is compensating. So doing those circles is going to like train your body, like, okay, this is the center line, this is where I need to be stable, so that when you start kicking to handstand, even if it's a little bit off, you'll be able, like, again, your building blocks will all be kind of in control. Excellent. Yeah, so yeah, the more times in whatever like plank or down dog you're doing, you can think about that spiral and push, and then just move random limbs, the more balanced you're gonna be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like when you're doing, I assume you like have a regular yoga practice, you are into it.
Yeah.
So whenever you're just like doing a flow or whatever, just like give yourself the challenge to be like just within the vinyasa, be like, okay, how far out can I put one of my legs and keep it all controlled, and then continue from there.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you can only, when you're doing handstands, like you can only do so many handstands like themselves and so many like specific drills before you get tired, because there's so much. But the more you can turn on those little stabilizers within the regular stuff you do, the easier the harder or the next steps will be.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so the last one we're going to do from this, again, from this down dog shape. So we're going to go down dog, and I think we did these on Monday, but this time we're really thinking about that spiral and push, step out to the side, and then I want you to keep that push and see how much you can rotate open, and then stepping back. Yeah. So we're going to do 5 to each side so you can kind of count, just really focusing on the spiral, the push, and keeping your hips as high as possible. Step it back. Spiral, push, step. Spiral, push, step. Ooh, fun. And you can kind of like play around with where you step your foot. Maybe it's more out to the side, so you have a bit more rotation as you push. Or maybe it's really close, so you like it's a little harder on your core to lift your hips. And they don't all need to be the same.
Oh.
As you're getting tired, just making sure you're keeping that spiral and push with the grounded hand. And then taking a moment to pause in down dog when you're done your 5 on each side. Nice. Yeah. And then you can go through a little vinyasa if you like, or just come straight to child's pose. Either one is cool. Nice. Oh no. One moment. I put my sweatshirt in like the one place that wasn't quite protected. Oh well. Okay. So I think that's kind of good for warming up and like power stuff. Because my shoulders are definitely tired.
Okay.
Thank God. Excellent. So, one thing that I like to do after all that is, as like a chill moment, one of the things that like really zaps your energy when you're doing handstands or even this kind of work is if you're not using your fingers at all. It's like, because then if you don't have control over your fingers, you're not like you don't notice the imbalances until they're too far gone that you have to do a big change.
Right.
But that all comes, so like, if your forearms are warmed up and you haven't kind of gotten them moving, they're just not going to help very much. So we'll do a couple little forearm things that will also help. And doing these before any handstands or even like a lot of plank work is just going to make your wrists like feel better.
Okay.
So there's a couple little simple ones. So just hands here. We're going to start with crimpers. So you're just bending at each knuckle into your fist and then down and then up. Yeah. And like you're actually like pushing, so they're called crimpers because it's like rock climbing when you're on a narrow little hold.
Okay.
You're crimping it, then you're like pushing down with as much tension as you can get. Yeah, so we'll do 5 of these. Now the next one, now you don't get to bend at your top fingers. You're bending right, so your fingers stay straight, yeah? And then you're pulling them in as far as you can. They'll bend a little bit when they start to go in, that's okay. You're just trying to keep them as straight as possible for as long as possible, and then keep going. Because that's how your whole finger can push into the ground and help balance you. So now you should feel better about your forearms getting tired when you're on your hands. So fold, dink, and we'll just do 5 of these. Dink, dink. Awesome. Now we're going to go hands out to the side, fingers up, and just little wiggles to kind of get them moving again. And then down. And again, you're really reaching your fingers towards your forearms and then wiggles. And palms up, fingers down, wiggles. And up, wiggles. Nice. And then you can just do some circles with your wrist to kind of stretch them out. Nice and slow. And then the other direction. I always laugh at my partner when I see him doing his wrist rolls because he's like, whoa! I'm like, that's not doing anything. You need some tension. I'm like, why is your face all screwed up? You're just moving your hands. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, so hopefully your fingers feel more free now. Fab. Okay, let's get some bands for some shoulder stuff.
Okay.
Mobilizing and whatnot. So I want to do a little kind of a baseline test with you, just so we're going to do the first little shoulder movement before we do any mobilizing and stabilizing, and then we'll do it again afterwards so you can see if your shoulders feel a little less clicky and a little more free. So the baseline test is just going to be the circles that we often do. So you're in child's pose with your ribs kind of on your legs, hands are out at about 45 degrees, and you're just circling forward and back. So we'll do 8, so you can, the first couple, just kind of getting it moving, and then you can start to go a little deeper into it. Yeah. So now you're going to start to, the hand that's on the ground, press it into the ground so it helps shine your chest forward. Really reach forward and around with that circling arm. So you're trying to make it long and circle. After about 8, we'll switch to the other side. So same thing, first couple, nice and chill. So taking the first couple to notice if you're kind of shifting away from that circling arm to make space for it, trying to center yourself, and then starting to reach your hand farther away from you so your shoulders super open, circle. Yeah. So just remember how these first couple felt. So we'll come back to this one at the end of it all and see how it's kind of feeling. I always am amazed at if I put the intention of like the pushing and the engaging and the reaching, I'm like, wow, this actually feels like a real exercise. It's hard. Instead of just like, you see every one start like doing any physical activities, like, yeah, I'm gonna do some arm circles and now I'm warm. I'm like, oh god, why? I'm not doing anything.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm always amazed when it really does feel like a thing. Okay. Some rotators. So you're just gonna hold on to it with your elbows in close to your sides, not like gripping, just kind of hanging loosely, and then opening up. Yeah. So you're trying to keep your shoulders pulled down so you can kind of feel your shoulder blades squeeze together a little bit so your chest is open, and then nothing moves except for your arms. Yeah. I know I've seen a lot of people do them and they're like trying to get a little bit more by arching, but that's just going to increase your arch. It's not going to make your shoulders do the work. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's part of the reason I like doing them seated, because I find it easier to keep my tail tucked and that engaged, my ribs pulled in. If I do it standing, it's so easy to wobble all over the place.
Yeah.
So these are stabilizing the little muscles that are helping you externally rotate, which looks like this, as well as this spiral of the handstand. So this is like the spiral of your elbow creases forward is an external rotation. So these are going to help strengthen that action. However, we never do anything with our arms down by our side because we're circus people and that's no fun. So we're going to add on to it. So this time one hand is going to stay right where it is. Other hand does exactly the same action out to the side. Now we're going to punch forward. Now this arm's not going to move. It's going to stay there. So it's just in line with my shoulder right out in front of me. This other one, and you might need to loosen it a bit. If you do, that's totally cool. It's just going up, bicep to ear, and back down. Yeah. So imagine that you're like back against a wall and you're trying to draw a circle. So like my arm, my whole arm, my elbow, and my wrist are like just skirting the wall and back. Yeah. Just to avoid any like reaching back. Looks like you're doing a pretty good job. It's just like things to think about. Yeah. Nice. We'll do two more. You can do it. Try to keep your shoulder away from your ear. Make sure you're breathing. You can give it a little break.
Fire! Like that.
This is the ultimate warm-up for doing any aerial because you're always hanging, so you want to be strong in this and like stable in this position, but you your feet aren't stable, so nothing is stable in your shoulders. So this is really going to like get them ready to do any aerial.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like the one that if I don't have like this is the one I'll do to warm up if I only have a few minutes. I'm like, I'm hanging now. So we'll do your other side. So your elbow is just kind of hanging. Rotate out. Punch forward. And then up and down. And yeah, if you need to loosen it a bit, that's totally cool. It's more important to kind of keep that good position. Your shoulder away from your ear, bicep right to your ear, and down. So what you're avoiding is this as you get tired.
Okay.
Yeah. So this space between my shoulder and my ear, there's always some space there. If you close it off, you're compensating in a less than ideal way. Yeah. Nice. We'll do two more. Nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if the arm that's out straight, if it's the limiting factor, again, it looked good. But if you're like, I can't hold this anymore, you can still do the exercise with it down here because you're still warming up this upper arm. Yeah. This just like ups the ante, so you get even more out of one exercise, which is always kind of nice. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay.
I like that one.
So the next couple. Do you have a looped band?
What, sorry?
Do you have a looped band, like a little loopy?
Yeah, I can't find my other one, but I can tie this.
Yeah, or you can just like do the fold in half and make it smaller, so it's like still a circle. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. And maybe if you do that like fold it in thirds, it might be pretty good. Yeah, and if that's too stiff, you can also just like tie your green band in a loop, because that one looks like it's pretty strong. Yeah, or yeah, in half might even be good. Yeah, that looks good.
Okay.
If you feel like it's like, if any of these things feel really, really hard, they're hard anyways, but that's a high resistance band for these. So if it feels impossible, just like take a moment and we'll switch to the other band.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it'll be okay. So this one is for overhead, kind of this active flexibility, the extension. So the band is going to be around your elbows. You're going to come forward into that child's pose just like we did for our first circles. And the farther forward you reach your hands, the more open your shoulders are and the harder it is. So we'll start with them a little bit closed. You can scoot them back a tiny bit. You're going to keep your thumbs pointing up and your palms facing forward. And with one arm, you're just lifting up and down. If that's easy, you can scoot your hands out a little further. So you're making sure that you're keeping the pressure out into the band, and then up and down, up and down. And we're going to do 8 here. Focusing on keeping your chest pressed into your knees nice and evenly, and keeping your arm nice and straight. Reaching forward, pressing out, up and down. Trying to keep spiraling your palms slightly upwards. Nice. And then after 8, you can take a moment before you do the other side. So what you want to be trying to resist is your arm, as it gets tired, will start to bend and turn in, because the rotators are getting tired, so they don't want to do their job anymore. So what you're trying to force is that palm slightly up and down. It won't actually rotate very much, but just like the handstand, keeping that intention will keep it rotated. Sweet. So now we have the other side. So slight pressure out into the band, palm facing in or slightly up, and then lifting up and down. Going to reach as far forward as you can, keeping that slight pressure out into the band. Up and down. And we're doing 8. Yeah. Sweet. So you can kind of feel it like on the upper part of your shoulder, and a little bit of tricep. So if that's the stuff that's failing, or like it feels not failing, but like that's what's starting to get tired in your handstands, then these are going to be really good. Yeah. Because it's like a handstand is just part of the real difficulty is getting that straight line. Because that's like a fair range of flexibility to be able to stack yourself. So to get your arm there without the shoulder flexibility, you're having to sink down, and then this gets tired. So the spiral and that active flexibility like work together to give you that nice straight line that's like strong and stable. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's nice to kind of realize that like a handstand can feel so far away sometimes, but really it's like the same thing, just in slightly different instantiations of it. That's being a bit of a struggle. Sweet. Okay, so the last one is to target your serratus. I don't actually know if it's going to be the last one. I feel like this is the only thing I have in common with dance teachers. They're like, one more time. I'm like, oh, one more thing. Blah, blah, blah. But it's always a lot.
We do last one, just kidding.
Just kidding. I have another idea. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the next one, there we go, that's better, is to target your serratus. So, you know, like when we do shoulder shrugs, like on silks or anything, and it's getting your lats on board. So this is kind of the same, except it's one step farther up. So your serratus is what, it's what sticks your shoulder blade onto your rib cage, so then you can push from there, so you're stacked, and it helps connect your shoulder to your core. So it's this weird little muscle. It kind of like goes, it's almost like an intercostal, like it goes along your ribs and attaches up into your armpit. So if you've ever had any kind of sensation, kind of anywhere from your armpit down along like your bra strap line, like around your shoulder, that's probably your serratus. It's often it's a muscle that's really important, but really easy to skip over. So a lot of people's it doesn't work properly, and it just makes everything else harder. So if you can get it working, it's going to connect your shoulders to your core a bit easier, which is going to be good for aerial and for handstands. So it's a bit of a weird one. So I'll show it to you first. The band is going to be right on your elbows, which is it can be kind of hard to get there. It's okay. I'm going to trap it down. So I'm going to have my palms facing me. I'm going to go criss, cross, and now on the out, I'm trying to rotate my palms away from my face and reach out as far as I can. So criss, and then push as far open as you possibly can. Just like the lifts, the farther out your elbows are, the harder it is. So to get the feel of it, you can have them in kind of close. Yeah, criss, and open. Yeah, there you go. Trying to kind of find that edge of how far you can open your hands to the side. Yeah. See if you can pull your ribs in a tiny bit more, just so you're not too archy in your upper back. Just because if you're kind of like here, with my ribs down, now my shoulders are forced a little bit more open, so you're really targeting it in the position that you're using it in. So criss. Open. Oh yeah, I feel it. Yeah, there you go. So it's kind of like your upper back between your shoulder blades and reaching into your armpits. Cool. We'll do about 10. Yeah, and if it took you a few, like, do at least like 5 or 6 that you like really feel it. Because it always, with a new band exercise especially, it takes a few to like be like, okay, this is the thing. Yeah, so as I'm opening my hands, I'm kind of pulling my shoulders down my back away from my ears to give me that little bit more reach to the side. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But as you can imagine, if that little guy is really strong, any of your pushing is going to be much stronger as well, because everything's working together more. So that was kind of the first phase.
I felt that so much.
Good. I'm glad. So now we're going to really humble you. It's going to be almost the same exercise. So the same setup of the criss cross. You're going to stay open, and with just one arm, you're trying to reach it up and down. You're just going to try it 5 times. So you don't need to like do the crisscross every time. Just one crisscross open. And then trying to lift that one, Watch your arm to make sure it's going straight up and down. It's not like inching farther forward or doing anything funky. There you go. Isn't it? It's pretty wild. It's like, this is a tiny little muscle that so rarely gets targeted. Now it's like, what do you mean? I have my own job? I had no idea.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Whoa,
yeah.
That's
Try to
crazy.
keep your elbows sucking in a little bit more. Yeah, so it goes straight up and straight down. Yeah, so as you lift it up, try not to let this happen.
Yeah.
Straight up and down.
Oh,
Nice.
Ooh.
Luckily now we get to stretch it out.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty wild, hey? And you can like feel, it's like, I just remember always being like pretty strong, but this kind of area was always really soft and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, my lats are strong, like this is strong, like why is this so like, it's just squishy, I can't target it. This is the thing.
Okay.
So this really
Okay.
like, tightens all this area up so everything works more efficiently and you have a bit more pull, a bit more push. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
to stretch it out, we'll do eagle arm. Really lifting your elbows, bringing your hands out. And now you're squishing your elbows together. So top hand is going down, bottom hand is going up. So I'm pushing my elbows together. And that you can feel that kind of like levels out your shoulders, opens up your chest. Hold that for a breath. And at the end of your breath, curl your elbows and ribs in, keeping the push on your elbows, but let your head relax. And just take 2 or 3 breaths here. And then you can circle them, just switch to the other side whenever you're ready. There's no rush. There we go. Your elbows up, hands out, and then that squish. So you can really see this shoulder. It's like it sets down. Yeah. Holding that for a breath. And then curling everything in. Really trying to pull your ribs in and pull your elbows to your belly button. Drop your head. You can swing it around. And then just breathe. And when you're satisfied with it, stretch them out. Nice. Yeah. So I like the extra, like the push of the eagle arms. I find it gets kind of into this, into my chest, but kind of under my collarbones. That gets kind of aggravated when I do lots of overhand stuff. And something about that, like, pulls it all apart. Feels nice. Okay, so back to your baseline circles, just to see if your shoulder, they're going to be tired. So besides that, see if they feel a bit better. So just doing like 3 or 4 of these circles to see how much freer, hopefully, your shoulders feel. Yeah. Yeah, nice. So. Does it feel a little less clicky, a little bit like you have a bit more reach and range? A little bit?
Yeah.
Awesome.
When I did it the first time, because this shoulder clicked, the first 2 I did clicked, and I was like, turn it on, and then I had to be really conscious.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I didn't have to, it didn't click out.
Awesome. Yeah. So
Wow.
I think that the serratus is the missing piece for a lot of these clicking things, kind of like the low core is the piece to kind of support your leg as it moves. The serratus does the same thing. That's what's kind of supporting just above your shoulder joint so it can move more freely, but it's not like click, like it's like, okay, now I'm gonna keep this part here and you can do whatever you want because I got this under control. Yeah. So I like doing these and the lifts before you're doing lots of rotation or before you're doing lots of handstands will kind of reduce that clicking, not by like changing anything within it, but by just stabilizing it from like one step away from the joint. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's always
I need to do the other side.
Yeah. Go for it. It's always so nice when you're like, I'm like, oh, I really believe all this stuff. But then for like someone to like do the exercises once, it's like, oh, it really does like change what muscles they're firing. Yeah. Which is a bit
yeah.
Right? Oh, I'm so happy. But yeah, that's like I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned in this whole like time. Is that like while you're kind of deep in training, you just kind of accept that some things hurt and you're like, oh, I can't do anything about it. I can't get any, like, I don't have time to get stronger. It's not so much about like getting stronger or getting more flexible. It's about finding access to the little muscles and learning how to activate them so everything's doing its most efficient job. And then it's like you find this whole range of strength and flexibility that was already there. You just didn't have access to it. So you're going to do way better if you just like figure out how to access as many things as possible. And then once you have access to them, then you can strengthen or stretch or whatever and like increase your ranges. But there's such a huge degree of our strength and flexibility that we have and just don't know how to get. It's like things being on the top shelf that you're just like, I don't know, I probably have some food up there, but I can't reach it, so whatever. So all these little activations, like, I really, a couple of people have, like, made comments to me, like, oh, like, you look way more flexible than you did before. Like, I haven't stretched. I didn't do any, like, flexibility during this time because it's so uncomfortable that I just don't like it. But all of this, like, these little activations, like every range of my flexibility is better, but not because I've actually changed my body. I've just like changed how I use it. So that's really, it's gratifying because I don't like doing strength work that much. I'm like, ugh, it's annoying.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm all about the cheating. It's not really cheating, but yeah.
No, I love this. This is so great. Like, because in yoga, like, I don't get to do these weird strengthening exercises. We don't use bands. Like, it's such new type of movements. Like it's getting really specific and like. Mm-hmm. I love that so much.
Yeah. And it just gives you so much more, like, it's going to make arm balances so much easier because, like, usually, and, like, when I started yoga, I was like, I'm super strong, I should be able to do all these things. I couldn't do any of the arm balances because I was just, like, saggy and, like, trying to hold myself up. But now, like, the last time I did a class that had all these, like, I was like, wow, I have, like, so much strength. I can actually, like, make adjustments within the pose because I have, like, my building blocks are built better. Yeah, so you can really, like, you can do these little exercises, but then just have the awareness while you're doing your yoga practice, and, like, that's going to help strengthen them and help, like, really get it into the patterning of your body. Yeah. So, yeah, like, just pick one of these things as your next intention for your next practice and, like, notice how it changes poses that you do regularly. Because I feel like my yoga practice has totally transformed during this time as well, which is great. Yay! Okay, let's we'll do an ass and abs express just to like get some core work in because that's really good. We'll do the style like the minute. We'll do it for a minute, change the exercise, do it for a minute, and we'll just do like 6 or so. Just so you're not cheated of your core workout. Okay, well we're gonna start with dead bugs because they're really good for your hip clicking, just as the serratus things are good for your shoulder clicking. So line on your back. The key things are keeping your tail tucked to push your low back into the ground. Your knees stay stacked right over your hips. You can put your fingers on your hips with a little bit of pressure just to make it a little bit harder, since we didn't do a ton of core today. Okay, and we're starting now. Keeping your head relaxed. Yeah, there you go. Tucking your tail, so you're trying to slightly lift your tailbone off the ground, but keeping your low back pressed in. Yeah. So the more you extend your leg, the harder it is. So you can start working towards that a little bit. But if your hip starts clicking, just back it up a little bit and find that activation. And as you're pulling your leg back in, see if you can think of that slight tail tuck to initiate your knee coming back in. That's going to really give your hip flexors a break. It's going to make your core work harder, but it's going to give your hip flexors a break, which is good. I know. I feel like I often it's done. I realize I probably don't do the full minute of dead bugs very often anymore because I'm just chatting. So yeah, those are hard. So next, take a moment to stretch out your stomach a little bit, and the next one's going to be for your back, your upper back. So we're doing the Superman pullbacks. So you lift your head, your gaze is still down, so your neck is long. Lift your arms to your ears, and then just like the squats at the beginning, pull your shoulders away from your ears, and that's what initiates the pullback. Everything comes forward and then down. Nice. Cool. I'll start your timer. You did a couple, so we'll stop a little bit before the 1 minute. Yeah, there you go. Sweet. So really thinking, pulling your shoulders away from your ears, elbows back, so you have lots of space for your head. Yeah, forward and back. Nice. Yeah. With each pull back, trying to lift your chest a little higher off the ground. Very good, yeah. Cool, 10 more seconds. And you're done. Nice. Yeah. So that pullback is also using that serratus. So if you felt like you had a little extra lift, it's probably because of that, because you're sucking it down. Your serratus is then connecting to everything else. So now you have all of this is connected to help you lift your chest. So that's great.
That one was clicking a little bit.
A little bit? Okay. It might
I was finding it harder to pull back and find that engagement for that one. I was clicking just a slight bit.
Yeah. You should try that particular one again, maybe tomorrow when you're not tired. Do just the little, just do these ones and then try them. Because it may just be that that's a little muscle that you never use that's tired now.
Yeah.
Because that's a real thing. Yeah. But yeah, if that's not the case, let me know, because I'd like to think more about that. Okay. Next one, we're going to do alternating leg switches. So your upper body, you can have your head off the ground if you like, or you can have it down, but you don't have to be up very high. And we're just doing leg switches. Yeah. And sorry. Cool. Go for it. Yeah. Thinking about nice straight legs. Yeah, there you go. All right, I should be doing it with you. And if your hip is clicking, just be a little bit more conscious about that tail tuck and that low core engagement. $20 seconds.
Look.
My quads. Almost done. And done. Yay.
She clapped a little bit. She's like, no.
So those ones kind of got your legs working a bit because they had to lift themselves, a little stretch in your hamstring. So we're gonna do snail feet now. So for snail feet, I like to put the block between my butt and my heel just to lift it up a bit. And you can also tuck your foot under. The higher your hips are, the easier it's going to be. So you can kind of start here, and your arms are just on the ground. So with my back leg, I'm squeezing it straight, and I'm lifting it straight up. So if you flex your foot, it's a little easier to see that your toe stays pointing down. So what you don't want to do is let it turn out and lift. So your hips stay square. Yeah, you know what I mean. And then just find a place that you can do it for 30 seconds. It's not going to be impossible. If you get better at it, or like as
hold it,
you can always like lower or raise your hips as you need to. Okay. I'll tell you when 30 seconds is up, and we'll switch sides.
Okay.
All right, go for it. So super straight leg, trying to feel your glute and your hamstring, lifting your leg as high as you can. Well, 5 more seconds. And we'll switch sides. Stretching it out and trying to lift your whole leg. Yeah. Two more seconds. And you're done. Yeah. So you can kind of roll at your butt a little bit, sit on one bum cheek and do some little circles to release it. Yeah. That one's really good because like whenever you're pulling your leg back behind you, which makes all the poses look really nice. If you're not using your hamstring and your glute, like you're working so hard and it's not going very far. So this is going to make that line, that extended line back behind you, just so much stronger. Awesome. Okay, so we're just going to do 2 more. The first one we're going to do twist ties. So this is like a combo one, so I'll like call it out the whole time. But you start with your legs up, reach 2 hands to one side, drop your opposite leg, and then you twist tie your legs like you're doing like scissor on silks. So your top leg goes across your body, your bottom one reaches out, and you're reaching towards that bottom foot. Unwind up, head and hands down. Now a little hip lift. So you're just lifting your hips off the ground without swinging them as best you can. It's hard. So it's really just like a tail tuck to lift your hips lower, and then we'll go to the other side. So I'll start our Atama. And go. So reach to your toes, hands on one side, drop it down, twist tie, reach for that bottom foot, unwind, up, head and hands down, hip lift. Reach up to the other side, drop your leg, twist tie, so you're reaching forward, unwind and up, head and hands down, hip lift. Reach it up, hands to one side, drop the opposite leg, twist tie. So you're really reaching forward and twisting your legs as best you can, unwind up, head and hands down, hip lift, reach it up, hands to one side, drop it down, twist tie. Reach. Yeah, there you go. Unwind it up. Head and hands down. Hip lift. I think we're almost done. Yes. Twist tie, and this is your last one. Unwind it up. Hip lift. And then stretch out your stomach. Yeah. That guy will make your scissor on silk so strong. Because it's like your legs are scissoring the silk, your core is working, everything's happening. Okay, so the last one, it's a nice kind of release for your upper back. So after all that shoulder stuff, it's a really nice one to end on. But so again, your starting position is feet in the air. So what you're trying to do is use as little momentum. So you're trying not to swing your legs as best you can. Curl your tail to reach your feet back to the ground. And then from here, really compress. So legs to your face, low back to the ground, and then press one vertebrae at a time until you arrive back. So each one, you're like curling up, curling down. Okay, and go. Yeah, trying to do it as smooth as you can, but obviously if you need to give it a little momentum, go for it. Yeah. Now compress your pike, trying to get your legs flat on your chest. Yeah, now squish one vertebrae at a time to the ground. Nice. And then back again. Yeah. Compress that pike, so legs in close, hips low, squish your back down. Awesome. And you're done.
Woo!
Yeah. So just take a moment to stretch out your stomach in a little cobra. Since we did the little twisties, you can twist yourself side to side. Awesome. Yeah. Sweet. So one a little release you can do for kind of the end for your upper back is it'll work better on your foam roller. I just only have block here right now. So you're going to place it kind of at your bra strap, below your bra strap, so kind of low on your mid back. You're going to sit, so you're going to actively tuck your tail, pull your ribs in so your core is really tight and engaged. You can put your hands kind of wherever you're comfortable across your chest or behind your head. And then keeping this tight so you don't get to arch below what's on the roller. You're trying to arch over the roller. So over that point that the roller's touching. So this, it's hard to see with my shirt. You can kind of see this isn't anything below. It's not arching. I'm trying to just arch through my upper back. And you can hang out there for a breath or two. Come back up. Yeah. And then do that 2 or 3 times on that spot. And then you're going to move it up your back a little bit more. So now it's more in between my shoulder blades. So that's just starting to train keeping your core engaged and opening through your upper back, which is notoriously the tightest, stiffest part. Largely because your rib cage is attached to it. Yeah, and then after 2 or 3, you can move it one more time. So it's pretty high up on your back. And then you can really exaggerate the ribs pulled in and let your head sink back so you're arching over that point. Yeah, it's just a nice release after all that shoulder stuff, both to get to arch again after a core, and to just get that whole area around your shoulders that has so many little muscles that we worked. Just give it a little break. Awesome.
Feels so good.
Yay. So if you have juice, now would be like a good time to do some handstands or forearm balances or anything like that. If you don't have juice, that's totally cool. But know that this kind of like pattern of things, so a little bit of mobility, then some shoulder strengthening, open, followed by some core, that's a good prep for your handstand because it's going to make sure everything's activated and engaged in your shoulders and your stomach. But you won't be so tired that you do one handstand and fall on your face. So you just do a little bit to kind of activate, and then you're good to go. Yeah.